Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This week's show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mission Yozakura Family Season 1, Episode 21. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, Ren ends up announcing to the Yozakura families they found where Tanpopo's hideout is, and in a week from now, it's going to be an all-out assault. It's going to be Hinagaku and the Yozakura family, as well as any other allies they can gather up in that time for this full-blown, because as Kishio calls it, it's like the Yozakura Frontlines is going to be like this all-out assault. And in the time frame, everyone's going to be sharpening their skills. We have Shinzo preparing a weapon that he's like, oh yeah, my parents made a weapon for me because they knew how much I loved weapons, so they made a special weapon for me, but it was never completed because that day, I'm assuming either that's about their mom or maybe specifically the day. Who knows if it's one and the same, like maybe the day their mom died along with what happened to Matsumi. I feel like those are two separate events, but all he said was that day, so it could be either or. But he decided not to ever really look at it again because it meant it would bring up too much memories of his parents and stuff. But now it's like, right, I can't be so indecisive. I got to build this weapon, whatever it may be. I'm assuming it's what we see in the intro that he uses that Kingo, like he swings the weapon and Kingo comes flying out. It might have something to do with that, but I love that Ayaka's with him, and it's like, oh, like she's like just tearing up at just like his passion and stuff, and then they're both like got some food made, some sweets and stuff made by Matsumi, and they're both like gushing about how amazing she is and stuff. So I feel like out of any one of them, like he's the one that shows his feelings the most out of all the siblings. Like, Shinzo can be stoic a little bit when he's, like, serious, but obviously, like, he's the biggest softy amongst them in a lot of ways. Well, I mean, I think, I was like, I gotta take that back. Like, Nano's pretty, like, open about his feelings in a lot of regards, too, so. We have that. We have Kishiro meeting up with Seiji and Rin. And we find out that at first I was like, oh, Ren's got the Tanpopo blossom on her dandelion on her hand, and I was like, interesting. I was like, I wonder is that why she specifically keeps her hands bandaged? It's because she said like I'm not taking these bandages off. I'm never gonna like have my hands out and about until I like crush Tanpopo. Because even Kishiro was like, Nano has some solutions that could remove that from your hand, but she's like, no, it's a motivator. It's kept her motivated all these years, but. And initially, I was like, wait, are they Hasakura victims as well? And then Sui and Oga are talking, well, more so Sui is talking about it later. So I'm like, okay, so no, it's Nano that brings up Hasakura. He's like, oh, their situations are so similar. So I'm like, maybe they are developed with like an earlier version of the Hasakura. So maybe they've never really utilized it. It's in them. Or maybe it is a... Because at first I was wondering if they were just modified in general. Because she said modification. So I was like, oh, I don't know if that includes the Hasakura or not. It seems like it does. But once again, we know like Shirai's circumstances of she was around for 10 years. But we don't know about, well, some of the other like Tanpopo people we met. We just got quick introductions to some of them. We don't know if they're in the same boat as Shirai, whether they've all had that 10-year mark or maybe they're closing in on that 10-year mark. Maybe Shirai was like the one who's had it the most, maybe like amongst a group of survivors of the Hasakura. I mean, we saw that Rin had it at like a very, very young age, but we actually don't know how old Rin is. Like, she might be stepping in the same direction as Shirai, or maybe not. I don't know. I guess it also depends on. I'd assume like even like using a Hasakura will kill you, but maybe also like Ren, Sui, and Oga have rarely tapped into it. I would assume just having it in your body in general will deteriorate your body and kill you. Even if you don't fully tap into it and use it, it's just in you and it's poison. But I don't, maybe it maybe it's not as poisonous if you don't fully utilize it. I don't know. But that's interesting. I just thought that was a really great reveal of like, right, not only Ren, but Hinagaku in general. I mean, we don't know if there's like how many other people are a part of that organization. I don't think we've met anyone outside of Ren, Oga and Sui. I mean, granted, Rin started the organization, and she rescued Oga and Sui. She's rescued others, but there's quite a few that have survived, so maybe they are a part of Hinagaku, or maybe they're just, maybe Sui and Oga are the only ones who are battle ready, whereas the others aren't, because there have been more that have died, you know, because like the lasting effects have killed more than who've survived. So I don't know if the rest of Hinagaku is made comprised of those people, we just haven't met them yet. I can't remember. Didn't we meet those two people that a couple episodes back where they were wondering if Taya was having an affair, but he was getting that tea for Kishiro, that replacement tea for Kishiro's. I wonder. I can't remember if they were Hinagaku or not. They might have been, and I just don't remember. So we might have met other members. But either way, I thought that was such an interesting reveal, and knowing like that was Hinagaku's creation. Hinagaku exists for the purposes of crushing Tampopo, and I love Rin being like, oh, I can't wait to kill that bastard Kawashita. With Seji's like, yeah, I don't think he's the head of the organization, but he's still a bad guy, so I co-sign you killing him. And Kishiro's like, wow, that's so uncop of you, but we know Seji is like not, you know, we know what time it is with him. But it's like, yeah, these junior high friends have kind of united, so they're all going to be in this together. So it's kind of, it makes you wonder. I wonder will we ever get an episode, or maybe even like, I'm sure the manga's probably dedicated some time to it. You would assume at this point, like finding out how that trio met under what circumstances. I'd assume it would be after Rin got out of Tampopo. Like, how did she escape? Why did they never come after her? Maybe they saw her as a failure, so they got. Well, I mean, we see with Tampopo, the moment they get what they want from you, they will abandon you unless it's necessary to keep you around. In a lot of ways, I don't know, but we know that they take orphans as well as kidnap children in general. So I wonder what Rin's circumstances were. Was she an orphan? Same thing for Sui and Oga. That's probably why Hinagaku isn't just, it's meant to be the safe haven for victims of Tampopo. And it's kind of this pseudo family that probably none of them have or lost a long time ago. So once again, that side of things is interesting. But like I was bringing up, I'd love to kind of know about Kishiro, Seiji, and Rin's past, of like how those three came to be the friends that they are. We also had Futaba meeting up with Home Dude from the Spy Association test. That guy's willing to help out because he's like, well, turns out all their gold members are away right now. So, but he's willing to help out. But he's like, yeah, I'll do anything because it's my beloved Tayo, which I don't think I thought of it at the time. I might have said something I don't remember, but it's like, oh, Tayo's got someone obsessed with him just like Ayaka's obsessed with him and Mitsumi, so. But either way, like Futaba doing like a tea ceremony that's just kind of like, I guess, training of sorts of her abilities. And I guess it's probably like a thing of like wax on, wax off, of just kind of like you implement that in everything you do and fine tuning your powers and your techniques and your skills. We have Nano trying to find a solution for Oga and Sui, who are like, yo, we kind of owe you because we did try to kill you like quite a few episodes back, so our bodies are yours to use. If you need to cut and chop them, it's like, oh, your dedication is nice, but kind of like we don't have to go that far. But I also love Nano making it clear when he turns back into his, like, I guess we could almost call it his sealed state, where he's just like, yeah, but you wouldn't have been able to kill me anyway because I'm a Yozakura after all. We catch up on Shion a little bit. She's in a room, like, I'm sure planning things out in her own regard, but it's like, yeah, don't enter. So we didn't even really get an idea of what she's fully up to. We have Kengo getting something from a dude, what was it, Asuka, was it Hotado, who sells weapons. So it's like something he's building specifically for Kengo, so. We have no idea what that is, but it looked like something. Well, from the outline we saw, it looked kind of cat-like, so you'd assume it'd have something. I don't know if it's like going to be like a mech suit or something that's being built for him, like specific armor, or is it going to be probably, you'd assume it's going to be related to his abilities, like his disguise abilities. So I don't know what it is, but maybe I'm misremembering, but we saw like an outline of it amongst like some data on some computer. So I have no idea what that is. But obviously the biggest crux of this is Tayo's training. So the fact is that gets visited by his grandparents. Bon and Keiko show up, and Bon's going to be the one taking over his training, and it's about getting Tayo more accustomed with using the Yozakura without having to worry about losing control of it, being able to kind of utilize it all the time. So it ended up being this thing of like, cool, I'm gonna end up shooting you multiple times. I mean, before that, he had this interesting conversation where it's like, right, he talked about training, with like Futaba, even at 3, her twirling him around, but he also talks about training Momo as well, that Momo's like the fastest learner, and he's like, we as the 3 outsiders of this family, I think we would have all gotten along, but it's like, I'm going to train you so that you can have a conversation with and stand on even footing. And actually kind of gives us some explanations on like how basically with the Yozakura, you can like control the impact of a bullet. You can control its speed and how much it penetrates and how much it hurts or how much it doesn't hurt. You can even use the Yozakura to make a bullet non-lethal. But it's like Momo, he's like, Momo's bullets are the most like the fastest and most painful, because like what happened to Tayo is like, oh, so those were gunshots. It's like he shot Tayo so fast and so like quietly and so deeply that it's like I think he even said like no one's bullets are like his in that regard. But now he wants to train Tayo's body to get accustomed to it, so he's shooting Tayo multiple times. It's like, okay, you ready for this? This is going to be like my 1,000,000 shots. And Tayo gets riddled with the bullets and stuff. But it turns out like that's not going to be as helpful because Tayo is still only half awakened, which I would have assumed that would have stayed his whole thing. And I guess it never really, he's been rocking his Kakashi situation a little bit, but it's like, no, you got a full blown, you got to Uchiha this all the way and fully awaken both eyes. So fully awaken, as he calls it, blooming is the term for it. And it's interesting finding out like what everyone's thing is, and because he already has this malleableness with how he moves and operates, the contortionist aspect of him, but he's like with blooming he's able to take it even further, and so he's able to like it morphs it, like all his bones go soft, and obviously he's able to morph his body like to crazy manners, but also like he's the evasive old man, but then you take into consideration he's like, I'm able to like also use my power. Like it is interesting how the Yozakura can kind of be this double-sided coin, where it's like someone as elusive as him can have powerful bullets that can penetrate like 1,000 meters beneath the ground. So now it's all about pushing Tayo to force his blossoming, his blooming. But I love that it's this dance you have to kind of do, and he's like, I get it, like you would have been very embarrassed to do this with your grandpa and stuff, but it's like, no, turns out there was legitimacy to it. Once again, very wax on wax off, but it's like, yeah, it turns out the dance is necessary as it starts awakening in Tayo, which I mean his reflexes are enough that from close range he was able to deflect one of his Tayo was able to deflect one of Bon's one of his bullets, but then he ends up pointing it at Mitsumi, and Tayo ends up stopping the bullet with his bare hands, and it's like, right, that's your power. It's like Tayo, he's like, from the data I've seen, you've always been like a very passive fighter, so it also fits your personality of who you are, that your power is hardening. I think it's almost supposed to play in the fact that he is such a, not defensive fighter, but it's also to kind of push him to be a little more on the offense. He always kind of, it's like you're never fully utilizing all your skills in battles because you're such a passive fighter. Now it's like I think that's going to be a shift up in how he fights, that he will be a little more maybe aggressive and is able to fully utilize all his techniques in that capacity. Maybe, but I thought that was so fascinating. Like I said, him, I guess having that, once again, it's like, it seems like your abilities can be like the opposite of your, like, once again, his Bond's evasiveness, opposite of that is like his penetrating ability, whereas like Tayo's now, I guess because of his passiveness, it's this hardening, because it almost is like, I don't know if I'm reading way too much into it, but it is almost like he has that shield perspective to him. So, but it's like, yeah, it all worked out. But I love that moment of him confronting his grandfather, being like, yo, I get why you did it. I understand. But do not ever point a gun at Mutsumi again. He's like, I am sorry. But then he holds up a sign, and Mutsumi does too, because it turns out it was kind of a prank, and they're like, it was a success. Like, she was in on it. And I love Keiko punished both of them. Bond got it the worst, but Mutsumi got it as well. And it's like, she's like, for one, how crazy are you to do that, to put the head of the family in so much danger, but also, like, look what you did to Tayo, and he's just sitting over there kind of cradling a little bit in the chair, and Mitsumi coming over like, oh my god, Tayo, I'm so sorry. He's like, nah, it's okay, I'm not mad at all. You know, I thought I was scared of you might be dying, and then you guys both lied to me. He's like, no, it's okay, it was a bit of a shock. I think I just need some time alone, Miss Mutsumi Yozakura. And she's like, no, Tayo is so far away. And it's like, yeah, which I'm like, I love those moments of just kind of like how cute they are as a couple. She's like, no, it's almost like a babe, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. I wanted to do whatever I could to help you. You know, it came from that place. And Keiko's like, your punishment, Bond, is no hugs for a week. And he's like, really? No, that's worse than death. I can't go that long. And so Tayo has to hold him back, where she shows off, like, I forgot what it's called now. Like, it's basically showing the Yozakura roots. All the heads. It's like a winding, kind of almost labyrinth staircase of like, yeah, if you kind of can get lost in here, but trailing back the Yozakura bloodline. And they find the room which holds a book. It's the roots. It has everything about the Yosakuras. And it's like, if the Yosakura secrets ever come into danger, if this is like a last resort, and Keiko's like, are you prepared that if you've lost everything and you are all alone, that you're willing to destroy and burn everything to the ground? Because it's the ultimate failsafe of, you try to force this book open, it will destroy the mansion, because this has everything. The Yosakura family secrets can never be known, because it's like, if it's ever known, it would throw the world into chaos. Because I think it's all the stuff that the Yosakuras have done in the, you know, in all that time frame that has, you know, they've always operated from the shadows, you know. So it's like, if what came out about what the Yosakuras have done shaping the world history, I'm sure that in itself is the information. But also, like, last thing you want is Tampopo to have any information there too. So, and it's like, are you willing to do that? And Matsumi's like, I am, because the time I spent with Tayo and the others, that can never be erased no matter what happens. But Tayo comes to reassure her, saying like, I'm sorry, I was kind of being like, so, like, not prepared before. I understand that you are prepared, and I recognize I was not prepared up in this moment, but I am. I'll make sure and guard everything that you care about. I'll make sure that you never have to lose a single thing. So that's his pledge to her, and it's just like, you know, it's a beautiful moment. It's like, yes, it's your cliche shonen romance situation type of thing, but I still think it's cute and beautiful. So I don't know how much time they have left on the table. Like, it seemed like most of this was a single day, but I mean, we have no idea how much time has really passed, so who knows how much of the week they still have left. But we also see that, just like they have their failsafe, we see Kawashita with the failsafe of his own, or some big red button. Who knows what that's going to symbolize, but the wickedness. It's, once again, it's kind of sickening when we see like him being jokey and stuff while he's playing a card game with Ai. He ends up getting the Joker card, but while he's talking to the other people from Tanpopo, you see Momo's looking at the 6th card, and it's basically Momo's face. So it makes me wonder, are the rest of those cards like based around some of the Yosakuras, or are they all like specifically cards that are based around the heads of the family? Do think it's kind of interesting she ends up being the 6th card. There's 6 episodes left in the show, or at least this season. I'm reading way too much into that, but I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing to think about. But either way. Oh yeah, something really quickly I also want to add, I completely forgot, I thought was such an interesting little tidbit of information we found out, is that the head of the Yosakuras can only pass their, or share their blood with someone one time. It's a one in a lifetime thing. So I'm assuming, Bond says like Keiko did it for him, and I'm assuming Momo did it for Matsumi and them's mom. So it's just kind of an interesting thing to know. Like, I guess it forever binds that person to the head of the Yozakura. So it usually means there's a special bond there in that regard. So I guess that's why it's a one and done, even though the blood can still be used and taken from them, but it cannot be used in the same capacity as being willingly shared. Just interesting to know there is that stipulation of it can only be used shared once in a lifetime. I guess that means like if Tampopo gets their hands on it, what they do is just they have to modify it in some shape or form because they can't use it as a straight Yozakura blood. At least that's my understanding, if it can only be shared once, but maybe there's a science way around that. Maybe that's where the Hasakura of it all comes into play. But either way, I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit of information we got this episode that I kind of get you thinking about a lot of stuff. But either way, just wanted to go back and add that in there because I completely forgot to talk about it. It's going to be really interesting to see where the next episode ultimately ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.